Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth and salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquatham. Listen, may the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Roquai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will is always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I kind of wanted to read through an article in regards to America, the tariff situation, to see what's unfolding. Because I'm starting to notice that America doesn't really have too many friends, right? And so I want to go to the article. I want to make a couple points, and Lord's will is always this lesson, will be edifying, right? So this is As a matter of fact, let me start off with the precept actually, since I mentioned the idea of friends. And then I'll expound as I read, right? So, where is it? Okay, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 12, verse 8. And it says, "A friend cannot be known in a time in prosperity, and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. In the prosperity of a man, enemies will be grieved, but in his adversity, even a friend will depart." Right. So, let me let me read the article here. So this is in regards to the EU, to Trump on tariffs, right? So I want to read a little bit here, right? So because we know there is a lot of tension going on in regards to Donald Trump and this whole tariff situation, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to read this precept, because America and the EU, they're supposed to be quote unquote friends, right, on paper, right? I know they have strong alliances, the NATO and the EU nations, right? But there is going to be a lot of tension that is going to occur between these two. In the scriptures, America is known as the whore, pursuant to Revelation 17 and 18, right? And NATO and the EU nations, you can find that also in Revelation 17 as well. Those 10 horns, right? So, this is one of the reasons I wanted to read that precept, right? Because in the adversity, the scriptures was saying, that those the enemy, will be essentially will be seen, right? So now they're quote unquote friends because things are a little bit more peaceable, but now they're turning into an enemy because of this whole tariff situation as it unfolds. So so the article here is politico.eu, and it says the EU said on Thursday it was ready to deploy the strongest trade weapon against the US after Donald Trump threatened to impose sweeping tariffs and scorned the EU as having been created to screw America. It says, designed following the first Trump administration from 2017 to 2021, the bloc's trade bazooka provides a broad retaliation in response to trade discrimination such as quotas and tariff or restrictions on foreign investment. It says the commissioner comments came a day after Trump threatened to hit the EU with sweeping 25% tariffs on cars and all other things, provoking fury across the Atlantic, with politicians saying the time had come for Brussels to retaliate. So it says, "We will not let ourselves be bullied." I think this is the quote coming from the commissioner. And it says, "We will not let ourselves be bullied, not with tariffs, nor with threats about our legislation," said Bernd Lange, a usually mild-mannered German social democrat who chairs the European Parliament's International Trade Committee. Trump's broadside was a distillation of the trade grievances he had aired on the campaign trail as he had stepped up since taking office a month ago. He again complained that Europe didn't buy US cars or food and lamented America's huge transatlantic trade deficit, which he pegged at a vastly exaggerated $300 billion. So right here, there is a lot of tension going on between these enemies. Well, they will become enemies at some point, right? So, and I want to get that later on. But you start to see here there is a lot of tension going on between, like I said, the whore and these EU NATO nations, right? So why I wanted to read this is showing that America doesn't, as time passes by, like America is really and truly losing a lot of friends, right? And then as you've seen from what I've been noticing as well, they have already have slapped on tariffs upon Canada and Mexico, and these are supposed to be America's very, very closest trading partners. So already you're seeing, through his actions, his arrogancy, his pride, he is essentially, having a strong desire to essentially make a lot of these nations that are so-called friends into enemies, and he's leaving these nations with a very, very sour taste in their mouth, right? Trump is the type of character who is extremely, arrogant. He's very prideful. He has a very forward mouth, and he's kind of like a loose cannon, basically, right? And they think there's nothing to actually, humble this man, right? So, let me get another one here. Let me go to the book of Proverbs. This is to show you the type of character we're dealing with here. Okay, this is Proverbs chapter 8, verse 13, and it says, "The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, and arrogancy, and the evil way and the froward mouth do I hate." Right? So the Lord hates all these things. But when you look at a character like Donald Trump, he encapsulates all those three. So let me get the word froward in the etymology, because he's saying these different things, boastfully, whether it's on Twitter or he's saying these things in his different addresses when he addresses the nation. That's leaving a very sour taste in the nations and even his own allies, right? So let me get the word forward just for more what's it called, clarification. Okay, forward, it says turned against, it says perverse, disobedient, peevish, adverse, difficult, away from, about to depart, doomed to die. It says petulant. Hold on, let me get that word also. Learn some new words today. Okay, so petulant means behaving in an angry, sulky, and unreasonable way. So essentially throwing like a tantrum, right? So these are all the things that the Lord hates, but these are all the things that you see his behavior is showing off, right? So let me go back to the article and read a little bit more. Okay, this is so back in politico.eu, and it says, although the US supported a united Europe after World War II within a strategic plan to create a democratic bulwark against the Soviet Union, Trump offered a different account. The European was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. They have done a good job of it, but now I am president. So this is something that he said, right? So it says the European leaders had that crossed a line. The EU wasn't formed to screw anyone. retorted Prime Minister Donald Tusk in a post on X. Quite the opposite. It was formed to maintain peace and respect amongst our nations, create free and fair trade, and to strengthen transatlantic friendship. As simple as that. So right now, and here, you start to see that animosity that's brewing in the midst of America and the whore, right? And America is the type of nation that is extremely boastful because they understand that they have a very, very strong military budget. They understand that no other country is essentially kind of like on their level in a military sense, right? That's what kind of gives them a sort of a chip on their shoulder, like no one can touch them, right? The scriptures say that pride is not even made for men, right? So this is the sentiment that Donald Trump is bringing back to America, like, yo, no one can touch us, nothing can happen to us. They walk around with essentially like a stout, a stiff neck look, like, no one can, you're just a big bully on the playground. And we know, pursuing to the prophecies, like for example in Joel the third chapter, we know that the other nations are going to have a strong play, and they're going to become, in a sense, that they're going to have the military capable weapons to enact vengeance upon countries like America. Right? So, as a matter of fact, let me read it. Okay, let me go there real quick. Because that's part, they have a very, very boastful look. And the scriptures say that don't let not a mighty man boast in his might, and let not a rich man boast in his riches. Right? So this is Joel 3 and Joel 3 and 9, and it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I'm strong. So all these other nations that are like on a, I don't want to say a smaller level, but they may not have as much strong capabilities. They're gonna have more of an even playing field because a lot of these other nations are gonna have more military, nuclear capabilities, right? And America is essentially leaving a very sour taste in these other nations' mouth. I'll give you another example. Recently, the whole situation that's going on in Gaza, right? And essentially, what Trump did, he went over to the king of Jordan, and he basically kind of coerced him into taking more of those Palestinians, right? But it kind of left the king of Jordan in a pickle, in a bind, because, and I'm saying that because you have countries like Jordan that are not part of the BRICS, but essentially they're accepting aid and foreign aid from America. So this is, even though he doesn't, have any overt animosity towards Trump, that can leave you, if you really think about it, that can leave him with a sour taste in his mouth also, because you're being coerced into something, and you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, basically, right? So you start to see how America is becoming a nation where they essentially, they don't have too many friends. Let me just put it like that, and what he's doing right now is increasing and inciting more hatred of that whore, right? So I mentioned something in regards to the pride. Let me see if I can get it in the NLT here. Okay, let's go to Isaiah. Just bear with me on this. Okay, this is Isaiah 47 verse 7 in the NLT, and it says, you have said, I will reign forever as a queen of the world. You did not reflect on your actions or think about their consequences. Listen to this. You live, you pleasure loving kingdom, living at ease and feeling secure, right? And that's very interesting. That's a sentiment because there was something that Zelensky said. I forgot how he said it. In that little scuffle that he had in the Oval Office, I honestly forgot how he said it. And then I remember watching it and seeing Trump's response is like, you don't know that. He was very, very like extremely defensive. Like, no one can touch you. You don't know that. You don't think like he had a very like Trump had a very defensive response in regards to what Zelensky said. Like there is no essentially recompense or retaliation for your actions. You see this type of sentiment, a type of character that we're dealing with here, right? So this is verse 8, and it says, you say I am the only one and there is no other. I will never be a widow or lose my children. Well, both these things shall come upon you in a moment, widowhood and the loss of children. Yes, excuse me, these calamities will come upon you despite all your witchcraft and magic, right? Because America is in a very comfortable state where they haven't considered the thought of retaliation for the enemies. Because when you look at the way things are running right now, you just recently had the Super Bowl just end, and it's a state where there is a lot of entertainment, and then people don't consider the severity of what Trump is doing. Right now, it's spilling over into other nations, like for example, Canada, Mexico, China, and like I was bringing out here in the EU nations, his actions are now spilling over, and now it's causing a strong rift between all these different nations now, where he's kind of like the only buddy he kind of has on the playground at the moment, is that little imposter state in the Middle East, right? You brothers know what I'm talking about, right? And that's just pretty much his only buddy right now, right? So America, that spirit of pride and arrogancy is engulfing this particular nation, right? um Recently I heard, for example, that Canada is now they're deciding to put retaliation tariffs upon American goods, and now that is causing a certain corporations like LCBO to kind of pack up and take their alcohol off the shelves. No, now when I thought about that, this month it can be alcohol, the next month it could be poultry, the month after it could be eggs, and now you're starting to see, groceries start to like basically kind of like dwindle, right? Now, one of the things I thought about is that, when you look at, I was thinking about this account in Judges. So, as a matter of fact, let me read this. I'm kind of taking a lesson a little bit of a different way. So just bear with me on this. Um, there was something I noticed in the book of Judges, because when you have all these different I don't want to say luxuries, but all these different groceries, they start to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. Then Jake is gonna have that type of mindset to basically kind of remember the Lord, right? So this is when Judges got sorry, not Judges, Israel got the Lord used the Midianites to punish Israel, and it says Judges chapter 6 verse 5, and it says, these enemy hordes coming with their livestock and tents were as thick as locusts. They arrived in droves of camels too numerous to count, and they stayed until the land was stripped bare. So Israel was reduced to starvation by the Midianites. Then the Israelites called to the Lord for help. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to read this, because parallels, drawing to that, that starvation. A lot of our people don't consider, what the Lord is doing right now until they realize, and that, that, what is that called? That lack of bread, like that lack of physical bread is glaringly in their face. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, like the scriptures talk about, seeking the Lord while he may be found, and calling upon him while he is near, while you see the prophets on the highways and byways. Jacob doesn't have that mentality. They're kind of like real comfortable at the moment, right? Just going into that mindset, like I read about in Isaiah 47. You sit as a widow, you don't think any harm can befall you, and that is the mindset and the vibration that America pushes, right? They don't have that mindset that these things can happen in a moment and they can be taken by these things. And Jake is also included in that mindset, because why? Jake is also in America. Jake is also being affected by America's decisions. They're in Canada. They're scattered across, the European nations, right? They are also being affected by this, because when they go out into the grocery store and try to pay for certain goods, it's going to be more expensive. And Jake doesn't consider these things. Like it says, our people don't consider, right? I'm kind of taking the lesson a little of a different route, but I wanted to hit a couple angles, while, as I'm reading this article here, right? Because our people don't consider these things and think of it as a light thing, that when they see the prophets on the highways and byways, it's kind of like a joke, so to speak, right? Like the scriptures say that then they shall know there was a prophet among them, right? They didn't take it, they didn't consider these things, and these things would happen, right? So okay, so let me go back to let me get the prophecy, because I did mention that real quick. um okay, this is Revelation chapter 17 verse 16, and it says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire," right? So that's the judgment for America. They're going to toss missiles, including all these other nations. They're going to toss missiles upon America, and they're going to, in I think it says in 1 hour, right? 1 hour, this place would be completely flattened and cooked and barbecued, right? That is the judgment for America, right? Because the sins of this place have reached unto the heavens. you know this is part of the judgment, for a whore, and the judgment for a whore is fire, right? So it's completely fitting, right? So just like what happened in what was that? I think it was California recently. Is going to be, the full picture of it is going to be all of America. The full judgment is going to be all of America, right? So right, this is one of the reasons these nations have a strong distaste for America, and Trump is essentially the ideal character that's inflaming this. That's he's brewing the storm. He's a catalyst that's essentially increasing the fire, to this war, right? So, anyways, that's pretty much it. I didn't want to make the lesson too long. As a matter of fact, I think I'll close off with this one here, because I was just remembering, because I kind of just wanted to hit a couple points. What's it called? So this is just for, I'll close off with this, and it says, Ecclesiastes 12:1, and it says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when they shall say, I have no pleasure in them," right? So now is the ideal time to remember, the Lord Yahweh Bashim El Shai, and try and, hopefully that we have that blood, over our, I guess you can say, our spiritual doorposts, that we're covered in these times, right? But that's pretty much it. But Lord's will, this lesson was edifying. Just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.